you are facing a choice. You take the blue pill, you leave this video. You will keep on watching movies believing that professional directors know what the hell they are doing. If you take the red pill, you will learn what nobody should. You will never just casually enjoy a movie ever again. Very brave. Let's begin. The other day I made my parents watch the masterpiece that is Heat, and when Pacino and De Niro had their long-awaited meeting, my father asked, "Why do we never see them together? Why do we only see one or the other?" Oh boy, here we go. Movies today look nothing like movies from the classical era, but how exactly are they different?
An intestinal worm?
In his 2006 book, The Way Hollywood Tells It, the best film theorist of all time, David Bordwell, analyzes the overwhelmingly predominant style directors have been using to make movies since the 1970s. Intensified Continuity. It is defined by four major characteristics. The first being fast cuts. Films today are cut fast. Most modern movies, regardless of their genre, have an average shot length of 2 or 3 seconds. Your eyes barely have time to wander through the frame. As soon as you take in what's on screen, it cuts to the next shot, and so it goes. Thousands of times. And this trait of intensified continuity is directly related to the next one. Too many close-ups. Classical directors favored medium shots and long shots, whether they were for ensembles or two shots. Films saved close-ups for emotional moments or important lines of dialogue. Today's filmmakers' number one weapon of choice is the single, a shot of one actor, almost always a close-up, or if you're lucky, a medium close-up. Every line of dialogue, no matter what it's about, gets as close a view of the actor's face as you can get.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Since movies are cut so fast, we simply move from close-up to close-up over and over throughout the runtime. It means almost every shot will give you one single thing to look at on screen. The third characteristic of intensified continuity is more technical. Cameras need lenses. The shorter the lens, the wider the area the camera can capture. Old movies use short lenses a lot to fit several actors on screen in depth and on the sides. A long lens captures images in a more realistic way. It doesn't distort the image, but it reduces the area the camera can capture and gives the impression of flattening depth. Foreground, middle ground, and background appear closer together. It doesn't matter when you are just shooting close-ups, because the viewer doesn't need to notice anything else on screen. The fourth and final trait of intensified continuity is camera movement.
Shit just got real.
But not normal camera movement that follows or reveals something or someone. I'm talking about non-stop, unmotivated camera movement. Be it handheld, dolly or steadicam, directors can't keep their cameras still today. Someone saying, whatever, why not move the camera while they do it? The eternal excuse is that it gives intensity to the shot. I'd say it more like forces intensity, but you do you. Remember the current love for close-ups? You know what's better than a close-up? A close-up that gets closer. Intensified Continuity loves close-ups so much they put close-ups in their close-ups.
Oh my God!
No matter the reason, directors will use the push-in close-up or creeping zoom to make the already excessively intense shot even more intense. Cameras move so much it's become a conventional way of opening a scene. The camera often starts off placed behind a wall or useless object. Then it slowly moves to the side to reveal the main action. It's stylish if anything. This one here is excellent. And that is intensified continuity. It's a style that is intense all the time. But if we always get as much visual gravitas as the most emotional moments of older movies, how can a film today make a moment stand out? By using techniques that are even more intense, such as slow motion. You're killing me, Snyder! And, God forgive them, shaky cam. The 70s also brought forth the era of the flamboyant virtuoso tracking shots. For one scene, a director will abandon his lazy long lens close-up reliant cut aesthetic and wave his camera moving dick at the audience. The more rooms the camera goes through, the more inaccessible they are, the bigger the number of actors moving in and out of the frame, the better.
Forget the story, look at how awesomely I can move this fucking camera.
Everyone who's ever been to film school. And once a director is satisfied with his well-endowed I can go all night tracking prowess, he can settle back on his ordinary dialogue scenes. And how is dialogue blocked in our close-up loving age?
As little as possible.
According to Bordwell, contemporary blocking is limited to two trends: stand and deliver and walk and talk. Stand and deliver is often sit and deliver. Two or more actors, static, facing each other. His close-up, her close-up, forever. The end. If you're lucky, maybe one actor sits while the other stands.
Daring today, aren't we?
Walk and talk at least relies on movement. The camera follows the actors as they talk. Of course, these techniques always existed in film history, but directors were seldom limited to only them.
Then, over to here. I'll mark it. 2. Then when you hear your brother coming downstairs, you come over to here. 3, then quickly.
To properly show how creative directors used to be in the past, we are going to compare two similar scenes. One directed in Intensified Continuity, and the other in the classical style.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
In The Fellowship of the Ring, the scene of the Council of Elrond is about 7 minutes long and a painfully perfect example of the sit and deliver school of non-blocking. It's got over 160 shots, with an average shot length of about 2.5 seconds. Most shots are close-ups and a good deal of them are push-in close-ups. When characters go through the trouble of moving, they simply stand up and, if we're lucky, take a couple of aimless steps.
Have a dad, Legolas.
No, don't! Do something! Damn you, Aragorn. Now this is the excellent board meeting in the ending of Executive Suite. You'd also expect characters to do nothing but remain sitting down, but director Robert Wise makes things more dynamic. William Holden stands up and walks around the room with purpose. When he asks questions to Frederick March, he moves close to him.
Are you suggesting that earnings aren't important? I'm suggesting no such thing and you know it.
Take a look at this composition. It's clear William Holden is our focal point because every line on screen leads our eyes to him, in the center, and he is, speaking. Because this shot uses the once-beloved short lens, we can see several layers of depth. The actors who are sitting still help to make the composition visually interesting. And we can notice many details in the set, like how these windows are similar to those in a church. So you can give a holy messianic connotation to Holden's speech if you are into interpretations. I don't much care for them, but at least Robert Wise gives us freedom to do it. The Lord of the Rings has what is easily one of the best production designs in the history of cinema. The amount of creativity and hard work that was put into Peter Jackson's Middle-earth is unlike anything we've ever seen before or since. And yet the camera has no love for it. Whenever characters speak, there is zero interest in showing where they are as anything more than an unfocused background that's indifferently captured by the monomaniac long lens. Remember how I said Intensified Continuity is only interested in showing one thing at a time? It applies to the set. Sometimes we get wide shots that show some of the set, but they're just as fast as the close-ups. Here's where the scene takes place, okay? Now back to faces. Now check this. In Executive Suite, William Holden makes some heavenly promises for the company's future. He mentions some of the board members and what they'll have to gain from it.
That's what you want, Walt, isn't it?
Every time his speech is directed at someone,
It's something you'll be proud to have your name on, Miss Treadway.
He moves close to the character and we see them.
The kind of stuff that you, Jesse, will be able to feel in your guts when you know it's coming off your production line.
This is an actor interacting with other actors and with the set he is in.
Because it'll be scientifically and efficiently designed.
The director created a living universe, and we bear witness. Compare it to when Boromir makes his little speech. He stands up and walks. Great. Where does he go? He just wanders to the middle and harangues no one in particular.
By the blood of our people, are your lands kept safe?
When he points here, we have no idea who he's pointing to. He seems to turn to Elrond here, but we see nothing but his face. When he sits down, the extras around him have no reaction.
Peter Jackson told us to sit down and look serious, and by heaven we'll sit down and look serious!
This scene is dead. It is a collage of faces, speaking independently in no specific place. A waste of a beautiful set and a waste of the actors' bodies. I see better directing in Holden briefly touching chairs than in the entire Council of Elrond.
And I suppose you think you're the one to do it!
Check this lover's quarrel in La La Land. Another stubbornly insistent use of sit and deliver. We start off with over-the-shoulder medium close-ups again and again for 2 minutes. Then the discussion heats up and we move to close-up after close-up after close-up for 3 minutes. Oscar-winning directing today. Now watch how a lover's quarrel is staged in All About Eve. Bette Davis pretends she's uninterested, so she checks cigarette boxes all over the room. She moves around as they speak.
Looks like I'm gonna have a very fancy party.
Her boyfriend keeps turning towards her, but she turns to everything except him. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz has the actors do something David Bordwell calls the cross. An actor is on one side of the frame, then they cross over to the other. If there are 2 actors on screen, it's an inversion of their positions. At first, Bette Davis is on the right, then on the left, then on the right again. The fight breaks out and she finally faces him.
So you've pointed out so often.
Now she moves to the left. They exchange lines from the other side of the room, then he moves closer. She tries to cross once again, but he won't allow it. She breaks out and she's on the right once more. He moves closer again, but she walks to the foreground and faces the camera. He steps closer, but she won't face him. Oscar-winning directing in the 50s. This here is a type of staging old-timey directors loved. Having a character in the foreground facing the camera, while another character looks at their back. It conveniently lets you see both their faces at once. I like to call it the turnaway.
Oh, I don't know what's right any longer.
Getting back to La La Land, mind how indifferent is this Oscar-winning set. Not only are the actors sitting still from beginning to end, they don't interact with anything besides eating utensils at first, then nothing once close-ups take power. This scene could take place absolutely anywhere on Earth and it wouldn't make a difference. A library, a theme park, a desert island, a classroom, the Council of Elrond, an orgy. It makes no difference. The scene from All About Eve could not take place anywhere else but that living room. They use every corner of the place, as many props as possible, and in other moments, even verticality is added with the small stairs that lead there. And the actors don't only act with their faces. You can actually see them using their legs and their hands. For Damien Chazelle, it wouldn't have made a difference if Emma Stone had been one of those Futurama heads. Ryan Gosling is trying to remind us he has limbs, but the camera is uninterested.
You know, I mean, I'm finally in something that
Close-ups can have too high a cost. Just to make it clear, I am not saying that this style is inherently good, while this one is inherently bad. I'm saying that this one is creative, difficult, dynamic, visually interesting, and beautiful. While this one is easy, lazy, boring, ugly and poopy-faced. Jokes aside, La La Land is not limited to stand and deliver. When Ryan Gosling meets his sister we'll never see or hear from again, the scene is staged very much in the classical style. The cross is performed 3 times. They move around and clearly interact non-stop with the set and the props. There's even a brief use of depth. Remember what is needed to shoot like this? The short lens. You can notice it by the rounding of the lines on the sides. The scene consists of one single shot, but I'd have preferred if it didn't. It would have saved us from 4 seconds of wall. Twice. The fight in All About Eve is not in a single shot. It even has a brief stand and deliver passage, because it is a tool, to be used alongside other tools. Here's an example of a scene very much in the Intensified Continuity style that goes beyond stand and deliver. From Robert Redford's quiz show, Ray Fiennes tells his father he cheated on a game. It's more dramatic in context. He walks into Paul Scofield's classroom, moves up the aisle and sits down. Later, he stands up and paces around, performing the cross 3 times in a row. His father has been slightly distracted by his papers. Then he gives him full attention by removing his glasses. As drama builds, he sits down, stands up, paces a bit himself, and sits down again. Fiennes ends the scene looking like an embarrassed child getting a scolding from his teacher. Redford still follows current fast-cutting fashions, with close-ups taking up most of the 47 shots. But the blocking is remarkable and it takes advantage of the set. The scene could not have taken place anywhere else but this classroom, right? Here's the thing. The screenplay sets the scene in the father's house. They should be sitting by the fire with some scotch. The director had a better idea. He noticed how insignificant was the location, so he moved it to a place that is meaningful and where the distance between both players could be accentuated.
Cheating on a quiz show, it's like plagiarizing a comic strip.
A classical director would have had a blast with all that depth. Redford still favors the single, but he manages to make the scene feel alive nonetheless.
You took the money.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I took the money.
Is that what this was about?
No, I don't know.
This is true directing, enhancing the screenplay, making it visually interesting, whether in 1 shot or 50.
Television, Ted. Look, it's just television.
You can now go and rewatch your favorite movies, and whenever you notice lazy filmmaking and think, I can't possibly enjoy this shit anymore.
Let me out! Let me out! I want out!
Take comfort in knowing that you're welcome.